Somerville is not really a puzzle game. If Inside was a less puzzly, more narrative version of Limbo's formula, then Somerville is a continuation of that trend. There are puzzles in it, but they are not the primary focus. They exist as subsidiaries, participating in the telling of a story. And a story is most certainly being told. I'm not the biggest fan of comparing this game to Limbo and Inside because it is made by a new company with only partially similar leadership. They deserve a chance to create a fresh identity, but unfortunately, Somerville has failed to escape that old formula. It tells its story exactly the same way Inside did, and that, in my opinion, is its biggest mistake. Limbo and Inside achieved their timelessness by the limitations they committed to. The two-dimensional constraint allowed their art to show itself off in front of and behind that plane without impacting the exploration or puzzling experience. Those games are so tightly designed that they will remain playable for as long as there are screens. Somerville's art is as subtly breathtaking as Inside's was subtly morbid, but allowing three-dimensional movement through it results in constant jankiness. These environments are built to be looked at, not explored. They are truly beautiful, and the fixed camera is a limitation that assists with that. All the work went into the art as seen from this angle, and the lack of camera control almost serves an artistic purpose as well. It seems to say, this is the way the world looks now, whether you like it or not. I would, of course, like to look at this backwards world through a screen that isn't letterboxed, but that is just as unapologetically permanent. The biggest limitation Somerville commits to is the lack of language. The car driving on the left side of a white dashed center line shows us that we are in England. Instead of saying, "We interrupt this program to inform you that the apocalypse is upon us," before cutting to static, the television makes noises that manage to convey that meaning, despite being incomprehensible. The sound design outdoes itself again when it, along with queer flashing lights, informs us that it's probably aliens. Or perhaps a war between aliens. Stepping outside reveals chaos of those proportions. An oddly humanoid one of them crashes through the roof, bequeathing, again without words, a power shrouded in mystery that will take the rest of the game to unravel. Actually, probably not even then. Now, I don't have a problem with keeping the cards close to the vest when it comes to storytelling, but I do have a problem with never even playing them. There are some moments that are more powerful without words, like the hallway of candles lit for missing loved ones. But when you whisk me away to an underwater facility, put me in a room with a mad scientist, and treat me like a lab rat, it really feels like somebody should be explaining what the fuck is going on. Are you guys humans from the future? Or from a different planet? Or did you see all this coming? Or did you just adapt really quickly? What is the purpose of this chair you want me to sit in? If I die when I'm in there, do I die for real? Are we gearing up to fight them, or to communicate with them? I respect the commitment to not using any language, but when things are left this open-ended, there is no guarantee that the player will follow along. Video games usually do have too much talking in them, but the purpose of that is to guide players in desired directions. Immersion in a linear game relies on an alignment in motivation. Somerville's opening accomplishes this perfectly. The disturbance of the status quo is very obvious, and the response to it is indisputable. I need to find my family, and also maybe find out what's happening to the world. Crossing the threshold alongside the protagonist, the player becomes immersed. Once we are in this weird situation, though, with a faction I'm not entirely sure are the good guys, and overhanging questions about morality and courses of action, it would really help if someone would just speak up. It is clear that a lot of effort went into designing these characters, their dropships, and the camaraderie between them. The no cutscene rule was even broken just to show them off, but the no language rule was not broken to explain who the hell they are. There is all sorts of emotional energy just sitting there waiting to be cashed in. It is a testament to the quality of the art that it is sitting there, but the lack of language prevents it from being utilized. After being fired at the alien mothership alongside the one surviving member of that squad, the world's best dad stumbles his way through an ending sequence that never stops throwing it at you. There's stuff from Interstellar, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and even The Matrix. None of it sticks, though, because once again, this wordless world is unable to elucidate beyond mere implication. All it can do is imply. It feels really awesome to stand hand in hand with what seems like all of humanity and try to communicate with the aliens, Close Encounter style, using the power we've spent the whole game learning to use. That does not mean, however, that this sequence needs 4 separate endings. Nor does it mean that the best one should be locked behind a mysterious combination of 4 messages of increasing length, the last 3 of which do not have anything to do with what the aliens are saying. After casting the player adrift in a sea of ambiguity, it is unfair to ask them for a specific answer to a question. This requires the player to either look up a guide or spend hours trying random combinations, and that is, to say the least, not very good game design. I think Hobbs' ending, with its 2 distinct actions leading to 2 uniquely powerful outcomes, is about as complex as you can get in a game with no language, before the player is just completely lost. It feels like Somerville is trying to be 2 games at once, and it succeeds at being neither. One is a 2-dimensional puzzler with breathtaking visuals, a stroll through an impressionist portrait of the world during first contact. Its rigid, linear structure allows the art and the story to be completely ambiguous and wordless. It doesn't matter if the player is confused when they can only give one answer. They can contemplate what it all means after the credits. The other game is much more complicated. It is a bigger adventure, with a full range of motion, cutscenes, 7 unique characters, and interplay between multiple factions. It contemplates morality and courses of action, culminating in a choice between 4 different endings. That game would absolutely require writing, and probably even combat of some kind. Regardless, it is a much more ambitious project. So, in my view, Somerville either went too far, or not far enough. It either needed to stick closer to Inside's formula, or completely abandon it for a more ambitious leap. It either needed more writing, or a less complex story. And it either needed rigid 2D movement, or an art style that can support the jankiness of 3 dimensions. This last can actually lead to technical issues. I counted one review pointing to progression-stopping bugs, and I am inclined to believe them after I got this minecart permanently stuck in its hole. That sort of thing would never have happened in Limbo or Inside, and that is why this game will be forgotten long before they are.